Hello and welcome to Walking with Jesus. I'm Teri Angel and I have with me Lily Ortega, and we're going to tune in and see what your questions are and what our questions are and see what Spirit has to say about the life and times of Jesus Christ. Welcome, Lily.
Well, thank you, Terry. Buenos días a todos. Gracias por estar aquí en el podcast Caminando con Jesús. Y vamos a, como sabemos, hacer preguntas y ver qué es lo que recibimos de mensajes para el día de hoy acerca de la vida de Jesús. Bienvenidos.
Thank you, Lily. On this program, we tune in, both Lily and I tune in, and then whatever is spoken, Lily also translates that into Spanish. And I'm so appreciative of that. I know there's many times people have wanted to ask questions or participate, but they don't understand all that's being said. So this makes it a little easier for others to join in and to be able to interact with us. So I very much appreciate that it's translated into Spanish.
Thank you, Terry. Well, it's my pleasure to be here and yes, and to invite all those people who want to, hear more about the life of Jesus besides what they have heard in the past and connect with Jesus or to God or to whoever you feel. It could be your higher self, it could be anybody that you call into your life every day. Because it's really, like, since we have been doing the program, I look at the topics that we have been exploring and I see the progression and I see how things are unfolding, and it's really beautiful. I feel it's changing, is making a change in me. And I believe it would be for everybody else who watches the program. I'm going to say that in Spanish. Estaba diciéndole a Terry que este programa yo siento que nos va a ayudar a todos, no nada más a Terry y a mí que lo hacemos, sino a todas las personas que están escuchando, sobre todo esas personas que ahora pueden entenderlo en español, porque sí siento que cada programa se ha desarrollado de una manera muy bonita, los temas de los que hemos hablado, y nos está ayudando más a conectarnos no nada más con Jesús o con Dios, sino con nuestro, ¿cómo se le llama en inglés? Higher self, nuestro yo superior, para guiarnos en nuestra vida día a día. Así que los invitamos a unirse a nosotros y a hacer sus preguntas. Gracias.
Thank you, Lily. I think one thing that we have come to realize in doing this show is that Jesus lived a fully human experience. Many times, we revere him. Excuse me. We revere him as Christ, a deity, the Son of God. But we forget that he went through a lot of the things that we go through, that he had emotions, that he had pain. Jesus bled. I mean, we know that he was fully human as he walked the earth. And to me, personally, that makes it so much easier to relate to him, but also to know that he understands fully what we go through. If we're crying, if we're laughing, if we're hurting, he knows what that feels like. And it does make a big difference, Lily, like you were saying. It changes our whole outlook about this man, Jesus Christ, that showed up, that he chose to come into a human body, not to just have a persona, but to fully experience what this thing called humanity is all about. So it has changed me too, Lily. And I think I felt the shift when I first started questioning back in, I believe it was October of last year, when I started questioning about fear. Did Jesus ever have fear? Was there fear with Mother Mary? Were there emotions, I guess, is what I started looking at first, or the emotions of Jesus.
Yes. Nos dice Terry que a ella también la ha transformado estar haciendo este programa, que en realidad empezó desde que ella fue a Egipto y empezó a hacer esa conexión y esas preguntas acerca de si Jesús, María, José sintieron miedo y sobre todo cuáles eran las emociones que ellos vivían en su día a día. Entonces nos dice Terry que lo que le ha gustado mucho de este programa, este podcast que estamos haciendo ahora, es el de verdad explorar cómo fue que Jesús vivió una vida humana, así como nosotros la estamos viviendo, con sus altas y sus bajas. Entonces, es muy interesante ver cómo Jesús vivió una experiencia completa como humano aquí en la tierra y eso hace que nos relacionemos de una manera más directa con Él. Yes, Terry. And before we continue, can we spend some time just sharing the program to others?
Yes, yes. I had shared it into a couple of the groups while Lily was translating. So I'll give her a moment. And anyone that's watching, thank you. Thank you for being with us today for this. I think it's a very important program. I don't know of any other broadcast that is delving into, oh, what was Jesus like? This person that came to us, and we put a lot of faith and trust in who he says he is, and he is definitely Jesus Christ, the Son of God. He was a human being. And to look at that, I think, is so important because of all the reasons that we just gave, what it means to us personally. So I'll just ask, as we're sharing this, what does it mean to you to be able to understand more fully that Jesus had a full human experience, that he went through things that we went through. He went through the childbirth experience and he cried, he opened up to the human life. So all the things that we've done, he experienced in all aspects. He didn't hold back. He didn't just come and experience good things. He experienced persecution and a lot of bad things as well. So I'm really happy that people are responding to this broadcast.
Yes, Terry. Nos está diciendo Terry que, can you hear me, Terry?
Yes.
Ah, nos está diciendo Terry que a ella bueno, nos pregunta la audiencia que cómo es para ti el explorar esto, el saber que Jesús vivió esta experiencia humana completamente, cómo te sientes tú, cómo te guía en tu día a día, cómo te ha cambiado tal vez. Sería bueno explorarlo. Entonces te preguntamos a ti, ¿cómo es que esta experiencia es para ti? So Terry, I noticed that we started, with relationships. It's not something that we plan to do. It just unfolded that way, and
Right.
I realize it's so important because we started exploring his family life with his siblings, and then um, with a partner. and then with friends, and I know we are also interested in exploring the connection with animals, maybe the connection with nature, which was so important because Jesus spent a lot of time in alone in nature, in quiet time, in stillness, and that's probably where he got a lot of his I mean, a lot of his the messages that guided him through his life. So the connection with everything, pretty much, because we are all one, as we say, and the connect. How important, excuse me, how important is the connection with everything. So it is interesting how this has started, with through relationships and the importance of the connection and the bond that we can have with others, with everything.
With everything. Yeah.
Mhm.
And we know how important it is to ground ourselves as humans, right? And so I think about that when you were saying, like, Jesus went off into the garden by himself. He would sit by the seashore. So it is important to tune in to that nature energy of earth. And I'm sure it was just as strange to him as it is to us in the beginning when we come into a human body. Like, what is this? What is this air we're having to breathe, and this food we're having to eat? So yeah, I see him having all of that, the questions and all of that full experience of the human body.
Yes, yes. I'm going to say that in Spanish.
Okay.
Nos dice Terry que sí, que ella percibe esa importancia de las conexiones y de las relaciones con otros y de esos momentos de quietud y de silencio que Jesús pasó cuando estaba, por ejemplo, cerca del mar. Entonces, sí, es de gran importancia esos momentos de quietud y de silencio. Yes, Terry. So anyway, I will let you, because you are the one who look more at the messages and all of those things. So I'm gonna let you just
Yeah.
start.
Thank you, Lily. And yeah, I love all of our discussions we've had so far. And we had questions about animals, and we are going to look at that today. But I want to go back to when we first started talking today, and the fact that Jesus had pain. And one of our audience members, Kathleen, had shared that she had a dream that she was in pain, and she really was. She's been having a lot of especially back pain. And in her dream, someone told her that Jesus had pain too. And she said that made a big difference. And it does. When I went through a breast cancer experience, I had a connection with Jesus. I actually sat and had a conversation with him. And just knowing that he could relate to pain and having to make decisions about how to handle certain things. Like, I had to make a decision of my treatment because I had discovered that there was something going on and the doctors confirmed it. And so I had that talk with Jesus, and he was sharing with me during that conversation that he also had decisions to make when there were events that came up. He had to make choices of how to handle it, how to deal with it, and that he always tried to do what was for the best and highest good of all. There were times when we know of course, that he would get angry at people, or things happened that we were thinking, oh, Jesus did that. But when you know that he was having all of the emotions, not necessarily always fear, but all the emotions that we have, it does make a difference that we can go through a journey with that in mind, that whatever we are doing, he has experienced something along that line that's going to help him to know exactly what we're dealing with and what we're going through.
Sí, nos dice Terry que también se le ha venido a la mente hablar de dolor. Hay una persona en la audiencia que se llama Kathleen y ella dice que ella tuvo un sueño, que ella estaba en dolor. Y dice que escuchó en su sueño que Jesús también tuvo dolor. Dolor físico, puede ser dolor emocional también. Entonces nos dice Terry que cuando ella tuvo una experiencia de cáncer, que tuvo más de una experiencia de cáncer y tuvo cáncer de seno, que ella pudo saber lo que se sentía vivir con dolor y sobre todo tomar decisiones de qué tratamiento tomar para aliviar su cáncer. Entonces ella tuvo pláticas con Jesús muy a menudo, haciendo preguntas al respecto de por qué, no por qué, sino para qué es que ella tuvo cáncer en su vida. Y nos dice que Jesús también tuvo que tomar decisiones en su vida y las decisiones que él tomaba eran las que eran mejor para el más alto bien de todos. Y hablando también de emociones, como sabemos también Jesús vivió todas las emociones que nosotros vivimos. Y eso hace una gran diferencia de tener eso en la mente, de que Jesús también vivió todas estas experiencias de alguna manera, de emociones, de dolor y de muchas otras cosas.
Thank you, Lily. I was just looking at it online and it looked like the video was frozen. So I asked the question, are we frozen? And let's see if anybody is helping us out by responding, but I don't see anybody saying anything. We do have several that are coming in to watch, and thank you for being here this morning. It looks like it's going now. I'm looking at it on my phone, so hopefully it's not misbehaving this morning. But I want to address, Lily, you had said something about the different topics that come up and the things that we discuss, and it's very spontaneous. Oh, I just want to say thank you to Kathleen. Everything is working good. The show is very spontaneous. When I get messages from the angels, from Spirit, from Jesus, I act on them. If they say, go online and talk about the weather, I would do that. So whatever they nudge me to do, I know that it's in the divine plan for me to follow through. So when I heard do a show about the life and times of Jesus, I said, okay. I said my sacred yes is what I call it. I didn't know what that looked like. There was no agenda. There was no outline that said, okay, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about emotions. We're going to talk about family. It evolves because it's evolving the way Spirit wants it to evolve. So everything about the show is spontaneous. It's not planned. And that's kind of how I live my life, So I'm not surprised that this one is going that way as well. That whatever Spirit wants us to talk about, that's what we talk about. And sometimes we might say, "Oh, we're going to talk about love today," but then it turns into a whole different other topic. So today we are going to talk about animals, and I'm just going to pause and let Lily translate what I just said, that little mouthful. And I want to appreciate everybody that's sharing that the video is working correctly online. Thank you.
Terry está preguntando si nos pueden ver porque creo que nos congelamos por un momento. Agradecemos a las personas que están ahorita viendo en la audiencia y que nos están diciendo que efectivamente sí estamos live, estamos en vivo. Em, Nos está comentando Terry cómo es que este podcast es totalmente espontáneo, es lo que se viene en el momento, es lo que hacemos. A veces podemos planear algún tema, algún tópico, pero a veces el programa se desarrolla de una manera diferente porque es totalmente lo que se siente y se vive en este momento. Anyway, when I am saying this, Terry, I am not finished with the translation, but when I was saying en este momento, it just reminded me of presence, that we actually follow presence, being present, because like you said, we can plan to do something in a certain way and it unfolds differently because we are living in the moment. I'm going to continue translating.
Okay.
Entonces, nos dice Terry que a ella, su equipo, sus ángeles le dicen, por ejemplo, le dicen, vas a hablar del clima, ¿no? O vas a hablar de esto o aquello, porque ella recibe esos mensajes a veces con anticipación. Entonces, ella sigue ese plan divino. Pero como decimos, a veces los temas se empiezan a desarrollar de una manera diferente o puede ser que se desarrolle de la manera con el tema que lo planeamos inicialmente. Entonces ella originalmente escuchó, cuando estuvo hace unos meses de viaje, escuchó que va a hacer un programa llamado, que va a hablar con Jesús. Y ya después se le vino el nombre del podcast llamado Caminando con Jesús. Entonces dice Terry que ella es así como vive su vida. Ella vive su vida de una manera espontánea y que así como es en el programa, así es su vida, de una manera espontánea.
Okay, so let's get to the topic of the day. A lot of people had questions about animals. And I know in my circle of people that are in my life, close friends, relatives, spiritual family, animals are a big part of that, especially the domestic animals. Many of us have pets. I've had pets most of my life. And so the question came up, what was his relationship with animals? Did he have any that were close by and ones that he, related with, ones that maybe walked with them as they took their journey along the way, him and the disciples and the other followers? And when I tune into that question and I ask, I get a big yes. And in fact, I see like the image that they give me is Jesus sitting there with the crowd that's surrounding him. And he's actually like petting a dog. He's stroking the dog as he's talking and using animals and our relationship with them to teach. And animals do teach. They teach us so much in our lives. They teach us unconditional love. They teach us to be patient. They teach us to be kind. So I can really see that as they're showing me that image of Jesus. I can see him loving on an animal in such a beautiful way that it shows that they are an important part of being a human. And I know not every human responds and reacts and resonates with an animal, right? I've known many of my friends even that just don't resonate being around a dog or a cat or a fish or any kind of animal. But I think it's important to look at the fact that they are teachers here on earth. And I think that is what Jesus is showing us. That's their role. They are here as teachers. And I'll let Lily translate that, and then we'll talk about animals as healers.
Uh-huh. Bueno, Entonces vamos a continuar hablando de los animales ahora. Nos dice Teri que en su círculo de amistades y de familiares, los animales son una parte importante de sus vidas, especialmente los animales domésticos. Y Terry dice que ella en su vida ha tenido relación con animales, ha tenido animales domésticos con ella. Entonces, ella se ha preguntado y le ha preguntado a Jesús que si él caminó en su jornada, en su vida aquí en la tierra, cuando caminaba con discípulos, que si tenían animales cerca. Y, y ella recibió la respuesta que sí. Y dice que ella vio, percibió, tuvo una visión de Jesús estar sentado alrededor de una gran audiencia y está acariciando a un perro. Entonces dice que los animales nos vienen aquí a enseñar, son nuestros maestros, nos vienen a enseñar el amor incondicional, nos vienen a enseñar paciencia, nos vienen a enseñar amabilidad. También, entonces ellos son una parte muy importante en la vida de un humano. Y como sabemos, no todas las personas resuenan con estar con animales. Hay personas a quien no les gusta estar cerca de animales. Eso lo sabemos. Hay quienes sí les gusta y hay a quienes no les gusta. Y entonces nos dice Teri que sí, que los animales son unos grandes maestros. Y también vamos a hablar de cómo es que los animales son sanadores.
Thank you, Lily. And, even before Jesus, the scriptures taught us to respect the animals, to take care of them. There's one quote from the Bible. I don't know where it's located, but it says that man is to have dominion over the animals. But dominion is not just being a master. It's not just being responsible for that animal. It's also making sure that the animal's safe, making sure they're taken care of, that their needs are met. So we've been told from the very beginning of everything that is, that the animals are important. It's important to make sure that they are protected just as much as human life is protected. Lily, I grew up on a farm, not a farm, but a house where we had a garden and we had animals. So I guess you could consider it like a country farm. And we had animals, and I always just wanted to love on them. I didn't see them as being a necessity, for food or for milk or whatever eggs, whatever we were going to get from the animal. I never related to them for what they could give to us. I just wanted to love on those animals. And I think that started my intense love for all animals, was to see them, to really see them. Because I think many times when there are animals that are there for a purpose, they're just seen for that purpose, for what they can give. So I don't know if I'm making sense, but that started, I think, my questioning or my understanding that they were an important part of life. They weren't just something that was going to meet a need, but they were there and we were to meet their need as well, their need to be seen, to feel important, to feel the love that they could receive from us. So can you relate to that, Lily?
Yes. Yes, I understand what you are saying about that, I imagine for you growing in a farm. And just besides, when I say farm, I just remember that Grace Isis made a comment to me once, not when we were live, it was in another occasion. She said that, Jesus was born in a barn. So imagine the importance of him, of the connection that he had from the very beginning. But now I am going to respond what you are saying when I was saying farm, like you growing up in a farm, you see the animals, as a source of like providers because they provide eggs, they provide milk, that's what you see as an example. But you as a child went beyond that. You actually felt a connection with them, that it was not just for them to provide those things, it was also for us or for you to do something for them, to reciprocate maybe the love that you were receiving from them, then to give it back to them. That it was, yeah, I understand what you are saying. I am going to translate what you said,
Okay.
Terry. Um, Dice Terry que aún muy al principio, antes bueno, desde que se escribieron las escrituras y mucho antes, se hablaba de animales. Entonces, nos dice que no nada más es como una responsabilidad de nosotros de, de, de sentir esa responsabilidad por los perros, sino también cuidarlos, que tengan seguridad, que estén a salvo y que tengan sus necesidades, todas sus necesidades eh, satisfechas, por decirlo así. Darles de comer, darles techo, etcétera. Entonces que los animales son muy importantes y que deben de ser también protegidos. Terry creció en una granja y ella dice que ella amaba mucho a los animales, que como niña no solo los veía como una fuente que proveía, por ejemplo, las vacas que proveen leche, las gallinas que proveen huevos, sino que ella veía mucho más allá de amor, de darles amor y de verlos también, de que esos animales fueran visibles a los ojos del humano. Entonces, ella se dio cuenta que los animales no nada más vienen aquí con un propósito de proveer a nosotros de cosas que necesitamos para vivir, sino que ella se empezó a preguntar y a cuestionar qué podemos nosotros darle a ellos también. eh, y que ellos también tienen el derecho de recibir. So yes, the animals also have, maybe as we can say, the right to receive, to
Mhm.
also receive, not to just provide.
Right. Yeah, and that's been spelled out over and over in the scripture. What people received from God as messages was to take care of these animals, to revere them, and to honor that they are life. Everything on earth that has energy is to be revered. Yeah, that everything is containing a spark of God because He created all of this. He created us, the planets, everything. When I think about the animals as companions, many people have a companion animal, whether that's a dog or a cat or an iguana or whatever it might be. Um, we can see that spark in them. We see life in them. And I think of Jesus's beginning, like you were saying, you and Gracie had that conversation, that one of the first things that Jesus experienced in the human form was the presence of animals. They were there. And I think that's not by accident. I think that was to show us the importance of all life, not just human life. The animals, in addition to being a companion, have a healing component to them. And I've experienced this in my own life. I've had cats, I've had dogs, um, I've had many different kinds, but especially I think the cats and the dogs are here as healers. And I've noticed many times in my life when my cat would just like get up on my chest, I could feel the energy coming from them, from their heart into my heart. And I think that that's what healing is all about, isn't it? Connecting. It's connecting in with that energy. We call it energy healing when we do like Reiki or other forms of energy healing. We're connecting from the heart space to someone else's heart space. And that's where the healing takes place. So the animals, if you look at them in that way, they can help heal whatever's going on. If you have a pain, if you have an emotional pain, they're there to help us, to soothe us, to love us into the best physical that we can be and the best emotional because they are. They're not called emotional support animals without a reason because that's one of their purposes is to support us emotionally. So, Lily, I just would like your thoughts on that, and if you've ever experienced a healing from an animal.
Yes, they help me to, like, I have two dogs, and I have to say that every day they remind me to slow down. I move in my house sometimes fast to get certain things ready, and there are times that one of my dogs is following me, and he will not stop following me until I sit down.
Mhm.
And once I sit down, then he goes to another room, like kind of say, okay, now you are sitting down. It's almost like reminding me, come, you don't have to rush so much. It's like just slow down.
Mhm.
So it is, I have experienced healing because, like you said, it's like almost like therapy because the love that I perceive from them is very pure, and it's a love that you don't, well, you experience that from, for example, from children, very pure. So it's something similar to that sometimes we don't experience with other as adults. I guess we lost some of that unconditional love as we grow up for many reasons. And so you can experience that pure love from dogs and from children, and it's very unique, and it's very healing. It's really like therapy for us, for humans, for adults, for children, for everybody.
Right. Yeah. I'll let you translate that, and then we'll talk some more about it.
Yes. Um, Nos dice Terry que los animales, como les dice ella, they are a spark of God. Son una luz que proviene de Dios.
Oh, I think we might have lost Lily for a minute. Let me just see if she can reconnect. But while she's coming back on with us, anyone out there that's listening, can you relate to this? Can you relate to um, an animal that has shown you that unconditional love in a way that it heals? And that's what it's doing. It's actually
Jesús.
healing by showing that unconditional love. Lily's back. Yay.
Oh, see, I did not even notice I was gone because because I was not looking like to see exactly where we are. Anyway, so do I start from the beginning, the translation?
Yeah, you had started it, but you didn't get very far into it.
Ok. Entonces, Nos dice Teri que hay animales que son compañeros y pueden ser perros, gatos, iguanas, hamsters, y que si de veras los observamos, ellos tienen una luz divina y son una parte muy importante en nuestra vida. Si recordamos, Jesús nació en un, ¿cómo se le dice? Barn, en un establo. Entonces imaginemos la importancia que tuvieron los animales desde el inicio de su vida. Los animales tienen un componente de sanación. Teri dice que ella, sobre todo los perros y los gatos, pero todos los animales están aquí para ser sanadores. Teri tenía un gato que cuando ella necesitaba algún tipo de sanación, se ponía en su pecho, cerca de su corazón. Y dice ella, sabemos que energy healing, que la sanación energética va de corazón a corazón. Entonces es interesante ver cómo su gatito se ponía en el chakra del corazón para ayudarla a sanar tal vez algo emocional y de ahí ayudarle a sanar algo físico también. Entonces los animalitos están aquí también para ayudarnos a sanar, a calmarnos y a sanar heridas físicas, emocionales, etc.
Yeah, so I think it is important for us to understand the role that animals have. And one of the things that Jesus used to teach with animals was to not be afraid and not worry about being taken care of, about our needs being met. And he gave the example of birds. If you've ever experienced birds or paid attention to them closely, they don't worry about where their food's going to come from, if they're going to have enough, if they're going to be warm enough. They have this built-in knowledge, this innate knowledge to leave if it's going to be such weather that they can't handle. They migrate to the south, and so do butterflies. So do other animals that can't handle that intense weather. So Jesus shared, that through a parable and asking the question, look at the birds. Do they worry? Do they think there's not going to be enough for them? They know instinctively. They know that everything that they need is going to be provided for. And so he helped us to understand to not worry, but to trust that whatever it is we need, it's going to be given. If we have a desire, that's going to be met. If we have a physical need for survival, it's going to be met. So the animals have played such a huge part throughout all of eternity. But I think Jesus was able to share with us by using the lives of animals and then bringing that into our humanity and helping us to see, oh, we can be like that, right? We can trust, we can be loving, we can be kind, we can be unconditional in our relationships with others. So I love that aspect of looking at the relationship of Jesus and animals and seeing how much he really respected them. And he was able to use them to teach us, not just to say it, but to say, hey, look at this, look at how they live. And they just know. They have a knowingness. They don't question, am I okay? Like many times we ask, am I okay? Why am I not okay? Why am I feeling this? The animals they just know to trust, and they trust God. They trust the Creator.
Uh-huh. Yes. Nos dice Teri de el papel que juegan los animales en nuestras vidas. Nos habla Teri de una parábola donde Jesús nos dice, observen a los pájaros, observen cómo es que los pájaros no están preocupados por cómo está el clima, si va a ser frío, va a ser calor, si van a estar protegidos del clima, si van a encontrar alimento, si van a sobrevivir. Ellos no están, ellos confían en que todas sus necesidades van a ser satisfechas. Entonces, nos comenta Terry que esa es una parte importante de la relación que Jesús vivió con los animales y que nos enseña y nos recuerda de la importancia de confiar que nuestras necesidades, por decirlo así, físicas, emocionales, serán de alguna manera satisfechas en el tiempo que tengan que serlo. Y, y nos comenta Terry cómo, cómo Jesús hacía esto, cómo él conscientemente observaba a los animales y, y veía la confianza que ellos tenían en la vida. So Terry, I have here something that came to me. Like, what can animals and all living beings teach us about love, presence, and connection to God? What is the spiritual meaning of the bond between humans and animals? If there is a spiritual meaning, which I assume there is. And you did mention something about how we interact, but also how we treat animals. How are we meant to treat animals as part of our spiritual life?
Great question, Lily. You know, there's a quote, and I don't know who said this, but I absolutely love the quote. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. Think about that for a minute. The way we do one thing is the way we do everything. If we treat an animal with disrespect, if we abuse it, if we physically hurt that animal, then that says a lot about how we see everything in the world. Do we see it as something without feeling, as something that we can just do anything we want with and it doesn't matter? I think if we show up in this world knowing who we are, that we are a part of God, we're created with unconditional love by a creator, that love is what's going to show in the way we treat people, the way we treat animals, the way we treat objects, things that we collect in our lives that we have. So it is a spiritual connection when we hug an animal, when we pet it, when we talk to it kindly, when we teach it in a manner that shows kindness instead of, beating something into it. That's the phrase I guess a lot of people have used. They're going to beat some sense into it, right? So it's a spiritual connection because we see God in that animal. We see their spirit, and animals do have a spirit. And I fully believe that. I have lost many animals over the years that have passed on from their physical body, and I still feel their energy. I still feel them coming to me. There's many times when I'm sleeping that I will feel like an animal jumping up on the bed. And if I tune in, I can see that it was one of my cats, maybe that wanted to just snuggle. I've seen the spirit of one of my dogs, actually a couple of my dogs, but one especially that was very close, and have watched as the dog would come into the room and could feel that familiar energy of it. So it is a spiritual connection. I know I said a lot, but I just want to share. One of our watchers is Jim, and he said, looking back, it's clear that many of my animal friends were guardian angels incarnate. They helped me through difficulties without my knowledge at the time. And I think on their end, on the animals' end, they feel like that's their job. I know I've been upset many times, especially if I was in a relationship and things weren't going well. And I've actually had my dog lick tears off of my face and help me to see, hey, it's okay. There's still love here. You're still loved. And so I think it goes both ways. It's our way we treat them, and it's the way they treat us. And it is indeed a spiritual connection. Did that make sense, Lily?
Yes. So, yeah, it's like pretty much as we have talked about connections and relationships, like we can make those connections have a meaning, have like there is a sacred connection to all beings. And in this case, we are talking about animals. So there is some spiritual or sacred connection with them as well. Okay, I am going to translate.
Okay.
Nos dice Terry que sí existe una conexión espiritual, por decirlo así, con los animales. Y yo le estaba preguntando el cómo hay personas que tratamos a los animales de cierta manera, hay personas que los tratan de diferente manera. Entonces, que si eso es, de alguna manera, es importante ver que hay una conexión espiritual más allá con ellos. Y ella nos dice que la manera en la que hacemos una cosa es la manera en la que hacemos todo en nuestra vida. Entonces, por ejemplo, si lastimamos a un animal, de alguna manera nos está mostrando cómo es que vemos al mundo en general, que probablemente vemos al mundo de una manera lastimosa. Los animalitos están en nuestras vidas como una parte de Dios. Esa conexión espiritual que tenemos con los animales está ahí porque vemos a Dios en ellos, vemos a Dios en esos animales. Los animales también tienen espíritu. Dice Teri que ella ha tenido animalitos y que ya trascendieron y que ya fallecieron y que todavía ella siente la energía de esos animalitos con ella, que de alguna manera han hecho presencia en su vida de manera espiritual. Hay una persona en la audiencia que se llama Jim y él nos dice que muchos animales que él ha tenido en su vida han sido como ángeles guardianes y han estado ahí en su vida en momentos importantes. Y nos dice Terry que sí, que los animales piensan que su labor, que su trabajo es sanar, es ayudarnos en nuestra vida como seres humanos. Y dice Terry que hay animalitos que a ella le ha tocado que le limpian las lágrimas. Entonces, nos habla Terry de cómo es que la manera en la que nosotros tratamos a los animales es importante, ya que observemos así cómo es que ellos nos tratan a nosotros también.
Thank you, Lily. So I think it's really important that we understand that animals have a place in our lives. They have a place on this earth. They're just as worthy to be walking, or flying, or crawling on the earth as we are to be here. And that respect that we show them is actually honoring God. It's honoring um, that we understand that we understand that everything that was created is something to be respected and honored. And so next time you look into the eyes of an animal, just see if you can see that spark. That's what I do. I do a lot of pet sitting, and one of the pets that's here right now, his eyes are so soulful. And when I look into his eyes, it's just deep. It's not even like a surface thing that the eyes are beautiful. It's like looking into the very heart, just like we can look into each other's eyes and we can understand more about emotions and what we're feeling inside of us. Do that with your animal or somebody else's animal. Borrow an animal, or better yet, go to an animal shelter and look into the eyes of the animals that have been rescued and see if you can resonate with what that animal is feeling, with what is responding to you, which is going to be love. It's going to be unconditional love. And I know that there are many people that, like I said before, that don't resonate with animals, and some that even have a fear of animals. And I just think that, yes, there are wild animals, and we know to respect them. We know to stay away from like bears in the wild, um, big cats that are they're looking for food. They're looking for prey. But if you're talking about like just a dog or a cat, a horse, a cow, just look at the spark that's there. Look at what's there inside of them, because that's what Jesus did. He talked to them. He used them for examples. He used them to teach us. So use the animals in your life to see what lesson is there for you. And if there is a fear, ask why. What am I supposed to learn here? What is going on inside of me that would create a fear? And maybe it was just a belief. Maybe it was something that you were taught as a child, or as an adult. But look at why you have a hard time responding or resonating with an animal, because they are here walking with us on this earth. And I think, as with humans, even, we need to learn how to get along with each other, how to live in harmony. And we can do that with these precious animals that are there for us to love and to be loved by.
Yes, Terry. And something when you said just now about it's just like the connection that we can have with others. I am thinking, for example, talking about that sacred connection or spiritual connection. Um, for example, when we help someone and we feel a connection that goes beyond words, that's a sacred connection that we can have any moment in any day of our life. There can be the connection to a sunrise, a connection with music, some kind of music that we heard that moment or that day, the connection with, like we say, with pets, or maybe a moment of forgiveness that we live with somebody, or maybe a moment where we share a meal with family. So, yes, like animals and the connection that we have with them is as important as it is with another human being or with nature or with any other, you know, any other being, or any other, and with everything, basically, with everything that we have around us. I
Absolutely.
hope. Yes. No, go ahead, Terry.
No, that's absolutely correct. And thank you for putting that into perspective, Lily. I have loved this conversation today. And I think it was necessary to talk about how important it is to look at everything that has life, and that includes the animals, and how precious they are in the sight of God, and how Jesus revered them, how he honored them when he was in his human form. So I've really loved this discussion, and as always, the time goes by too fast. But I appreciate everyone that has tuned in and everyone who has shared comments. Thank you. And I would love to hear more feedback from those who are watching and listening to this. Even if you're watching on the replay, give us your feedback and let us know if this has touched you. Do you have an animal that maybe you can get closer to by realizing their importance and what they're doing when they show up in your life? Because they're there for a reason. There's no accidents or coincidences. So if you have an animal that showed up, it's there, and it was placed there by spirit.
Sí, nos dice Terry que los animales están aquí en la tierra por una razón importante, no es casualidad, que es importante honrarlos y respetarlos así como lo hacemos con otras personas, porque al hacerlo estamos honrando a Dios. Dice Terry que ella tiene un perro, porque también hace pet sitting, ella cuida animalitos en los lugares que ella va, en las casas que ella se queda, y que hay un perrito en especial que cuando lo ve y ve sus ojos, puede ver más allá de lo que se puede percibir con los ojos, que es algo muy profundo y que va como a su corazón, que es como que es esa conexión de corazón a corazón. Entonces nos invita a que vayamos a esos lugares que se llaman animal shelters, que vayamos a un lugar donde hay animales que se pueden rescatar, que se pueden adoptar y que veamos cómo responden esos animalitos con nosotros. Veámoslos a los ojos y percibamos ese amor incondicional que ellos tienen para nosotros. Observemos lo que está within, lo que está adentro de ellos, ya que como sabemos, Jesús usó por decirlo así, a los animalitos como ejemplo para que entendiéramos lo que es el amor incondicional y la confianza en la vida. Entonces, si acaso tú tienes algún miedo de estar alrededor de animales, entonces ve más allá de eso y pregúntate, ¿qué es lo que hay ahí? ¿Por qué puede ser que yo esté teniendo este miedo hacia animalitos? Entonces te invitamos a que te cuestiones y que si puedes, trates de tener una conexión más profunda con los animalitos.
Lily, thank you. Thank you so much for being with me today and for this discussion. You know, I was reminded as you were translating that some animals have a purpose that is so huge while they're here. And I was thinking about the dogs that can alert people when something's wrong. There have been many instances that we know of where a dog has alerted an owner that there's something going on with their heart, that they may be going into a heart attack or heart where the heart's shutting down. And so they know our energy. And I've had many people that have asked, you know, how does the animal even recognize me? You know, the if I'm not around it all the time, how does it know that I'm somebody that can be trusted? The animals see our energy. They don't necessarily see the physical body. I mean, they see it, but they see more of our essence of what's coming from us. So the animals have a really high purpose of being here. And that's been shown over and over through history of the animals that can help other humans in such a way that sometimes it's life-saving what they do for us. So I don't know if you've ever heard of any of those instances, but I've watched many documentaries and heard stories of the animals that have saved lives because they were in tune to the energy coming from that human. And even if we're not aware that something is going wrong, the dog can see that more than we can see it.
Yes, they have that intuition that is very, very deep, that they are really connected to the essence, as you said, and the energy of the person. And I just remember that I have a friend that she fell. She was inside her house and she could not reach to her phone to call emergency for to go to be rescued. Um, it took her 4 hours to get to her phone, and in the meantime, her dog was going outside and barking, 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 and the bark of the dog was a different bark than the usual bark, because a neighbor heard, and she noticed that the dog was not barking as usual, and it was some kind of alert. The dog was saying, "Help, help."
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's something that is a part of their purpose for being here, not just to love on us and to be a companion, but also to protect us. And that's the reason many people have a dog, especially, is for protection, because they know that that dog is not going to let anything happen to them. And I'm so glad one of our listeners is Kim, and Kim is part of our spiritual group, our spiritual family, and understands probably more than any of us about animals because she has so many, and she can relate to them and what we're saying today here about Jesus and the animals. So again, thank you, Lily, for being here. We've gone over time, and thank you all for bearing with us as we did go over time. But the time is so precious, and I think these conversations are so important to be had. So whatever time we used, thank you for sticking here with us, and we'll be back again next week. I don't know what the discussion will be. We'll find out. And if you have a topic that you would like to have us address, some part of the life of Jesus that you'd have us look at, please do so. Please put that in the comments and say, can we talk about this? Or I have a question about this. And we will most certainly look at it.
Yes, Terry. And I just want to say this. As we go forward this week, may we all find moments of sacred connection in our daily lives. May our hearts be open to the lessons of nature, the companionship of animals, the kindness of others, and the quiet ways that Spirit speaks to us each day. So I will say that in
That's
Spanish.
beautiful. That is beautiful, Lily. Thank you for that.
And yeah, until next time. And yeah, remember to walk gently, to walk gratefully, and to keep walking with Jesus. I'm going to say that in Spanish.
Okay.
Que todos podamos encontrar momentos de conexión sagrada en nuestra vida diaria. Que esos momentos nos recuerden que no estamos separados de la creación de Dios, de los demás, ni del amor divino que nos rodea. Hasta la próxima y sigamos caminando con Jesús. Y hagan sus preguntas para el próximo programa. Si tienen alguna pregunta o algún tópico del que quieran platicar, por favor, háganoslo saber. Y nos vemos el próximo sábado a las 10 de la mañana, hora del este.
Mm. So beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, everyone who came in today to spend some time with us. May you be blessed and walk from this place a little different than when you joined in at the beginning. We love you so much. And we'll return next Saturday and have another beautiful discussion. Come join in with us and let other people know that this is happening. Share it out so that others can join in as well.
Compartan este programa y nos vemos la próxima semana. Gracias.
Okay. Thank you, Lily. Have a beautiful day. And bye, everyone.